Insane fraud and terrible neighbors today. Our first story is called Was Bored at Work, so got a guy fired and possibly sent to prison for fraud, posted by Bored Hotel Worker. I work the night shift as a receptionist at a hotel in Norway, and most nights are spent watching Netflix and playing games. Last summer was really slow, and I also worked a lot extra, so I ran out of stuff to watch and of games to play. One night, I got a mail from Scooter. He wanted to book a room for almost 20 days. I just had to send him the price and the confirmation that we had the rooms available, and then he would send me his credit card info for me to pre-charge. Normally, we just delete these kinds of mail, but I was bored out of my mind, so I responded with an offer for around $2,000 for the entire stay. I also made sure to inform him that he could cancel for free up to the day of the arrival. This is probably the most common fraud attempt in hotels and travel industry. Unlike most businesses, we are able to charge credit and debit cards with only the card number and expiration date. No need for a PIN code, a CVC, or other authorization methods. Our software also allows us to deposit money directly to local and international bank accounts by using the card number. Because of this, jerks like Scooter will try to prepay with stolen and skimmed cards, but then cancel the booking and ask us to refund the amount to a different card. A couple hours after sending him the offer, he responded with a Visa number and told me to charge him as soon as possible. I checked the card with our validation software, and to my big surprise, it did not belong to Scooter. If validation succeeds, it will return with the card owner's name 90% of the time. I sent him a new mail stating that the card was declined because of insufficient funds. He quickly replied and gave me a new card to try. Guess what? This one didn't belong to Scooter either. Wasn't even the same person as the first card. By checking the BIN codes, the 6 first digits, I found which banks had issued the cards. Not even issued in the same country. My plan was just to call the banks and inform them of the attempted scam, but there were still several hours before I could go home, so I decided to screw with Scooter a bit more. I sent him a reply that the second card went through and also the reference number for his stay at our hotel. As expected, a couple hours later, Scooter sent a mail canceling the order and asked if we could refund the money to a different card, as he had lost his wallet and deactivated the card that he paid with. This card was issued from a Polish bank. Not sure why, but Polish bank accounts are often used by people who want to launder money from Bitcoin and drugs. You can buy a legit card for around $500 that is registered to some guy or girl in Poland from the darknet. At this point, Scooter was probably pretty happy about the $2,000 he would soon receive. I replied that it was no problem for me to transfer the dollars to a different card, as long as it was valid. How fun it would be to also cancel his own card so that he had to spend $500 for a new one. Not fun enough. In the last mail, I wrote that he could send me the card number, but that our email server would go down for maintenance in a few minutes, so my boss would do it on Monday. It was now Saturday morning, so enough time for the charged bank to call us and reverse the transfer. If he needed the money right away, I told him to call the hotel before I ended my shift at 7 o'clock. He called almost immediately, and I wrote down the card number and his phone number. Told him that I transferred the money and that it would be in his account by 12 o'clock. My shift ended, and I went home with all the info that Scooter had provided. Wanted to see if I could find out who he was, and of course, this idiot had an open Facebook profile that I found using his phone number. He even listed his address and employer. Looked a bit like the artist Scooter, but even with more screwed up face and spiky hair full of gel. He lives somewhere outside of London in an area that I would describe as a British trailer park. Houses that were nice at some point, but where the owners had spent no money on maintenance since it was built. Trash everywhere and broken windows that were boarded up or fixed by sealing holes with garbage. Now to the fun part. According to his Facebook profile, Scooter worked at a hotel. This meant that he would have access to card information from guests that booked through sites like Booking.com. I called the manager of the hotel and I told him there was reason to believe that one of his employees was trying to commit credit card fraud and that the card's numbers could belong to their guest. I gave him the name of the people who owned the cards that Scooter tried to pay with, and to no surprise, both had stayed at the hotel. I told him it was Scooter, and the manager just exploded in anger. Not 100% sure what he said because he was screaming so loud, but I think Scooter wasn't a normal employee. He worked there through some kind of government training program or something. After talking to the manager, I called both Visa and MasterCard International and told them about Scooter's little business venture. Apparently, it's pretty easy to check if there are more cards that have been involved in fraud, where the cards also have been used at Hotel Scooter. With his Polish deposit account info, they would also be able to pin it on Scooter if he had been successful in scamming anyone and then sue him for the amount stolen. The police also called me later to get a statement regarding the whole situation, so I know that the manager reported it to the police. Not sure what happened to Scooter, but according to his Facebook profile, he no longer works at the hotel or anywhere else as far as I can see. Neighbors' kids are trespassing and throwing rocks at my car, with updates in the comments by Lou Yaya. My new neighbors have lived there for 2 months now. It's 3 single women with 8 children. Kids are always unsupervised. They come to our driveway and play, which I didn't think it was a big deal at first. Until my brother almost ran them over once in his work truck, he didn't even notice they were there. I was outside one day and the kids introduced themselves and they went off, telling me how whenever we aren't home, they come to my house, and I told them they couldn't trespass and to please not come over anymore because they can get hurt. Kids continued to come over. My brother spoke to them and he kicked them out. We randomly found 8 nails in our driveway and assumed that the kids threw them to our side since they had workers doing some stuff on their side earlier. Fast forward to the end of June and my brother comes in screaming to come look at my car, and he told me he yelled at the kids because he caught them throwing rocks at my car. They threw over 60 rocks at my car. I couldn't find an adult to speak to at their home either. Finally, a friend came out and said that she is just a friend and that the mothers are not home. I called the police station for them to come talk to the parents and make a report, and they said they can't come because they're kids and they can't make a police report on kids. 2 days later, the kids were outside playing with water and they decided to throw their underwear to our driveway, and it's been there for 4 days now. Yesterday, I came home from work and I heard bangs in my window. I ran to the front of the house and the kids were ready to throw another rock at my window when I told them to stop. I went over to their house and knocked for 10 minutes while their door was open and a newborn baby was just there at the door. When finally, one of the moms came out of their house. It's very small and I grew up there, so I know how the house looks inside, and I know that they were ignoring me. She comes out and doesn't care that her kids are throwing rocks. She doesn't care to supervise her kids. She doesn't care that they damaged my car or anything and doesn't want to take responsibility or tell anything to her kids. She is very dismissive and just shrugs her shoulders. What can I do in this situation? I'm installing cameras over the weekend. It's so frustrating. Update time. Comment says, call child services. If they're being left unsupervised, did you neglect to tell the police that? Then they are in an unsafe home and should be taken away. OP says, I did mention that to the police that they are unsupervised. The adults are inside, but the kids are out for hours by themselves. Hopefully, now that we are installing cameras, we can get proof. I also texted their landlord, but he never replied. So the person that answered at the police station said since they are minors, they can't do a police report, but I can take the parents to court. I told her, well, I don't need a police report to have proof of the incidents. She said no. I asked her if I need a report for my car insurance. She said no. I called my insurance and they said a police report will help. But my insurance wants me to pay my deductible, which I don't want to pay. The kids are 3 to 6 years old, and she said if they were 12 and older, they can do something. So I told the officer that answered, so kids can just damage someone else's property? She said no, that I need to take them to court, but they can't do a police report on kids. This is based in the USA as well, and you gotta call CPS, take them to court. I know it sucks for the kids, but these parents are not giving them the life that they need, and those kids need to be somewhere with love and care. That's what I say as a dad myself. New neighbors, apartment neighbor from heck, with updates, posted by my little Artmare. Today, I went outside after my cameras flagged someone opening the gate to our yard and walking on our porch. I headed outside and saw that 2 bags of dirt that I had on the porch were now on the sidewalk in front of my house, and the gate was open. I walked over, picked it up, and then promptly heard, "Hey, that's mine." I've been dealing with hordes of porch pirates that all say similar phrases when caught, so I told her, "No, it's not. I have you on camera grabbing it off of my porch." Now, here's where the story gets interesting. She started getting ticked, yelling something on the phone, and then told me that her dad dropped them off to the wrong house. These bags were sitting there since last Friday, coincidentally the same day my wife and I cleaned out our old car for a trade-in. She did the cleaning and left most of the stuff by the gate for me to grab, including those 2 bags of dirt. I just brought it to the porch yesterday out of laziness. Now I should note I have an extensive garden and buy dirt every other week to supply new plants. These happen to be the exact same bags that I buy. So it was not unusual to think that I forgot a couple of bags in the old car. So I went inside and asked my wife, and she said that she didn't, so this person was actually telling the truth. I brought the bags back out and tried to apologize for the misunderstanding, but was cut off and told to learn how to be nice. I've never seen this person, and after checking my cameras, sure as heck, a random guy tossed them over my gate, and I must have missed the notification, and the timing was just perfect to where it didn't raise an eyebrow. No idea where she lives, but she carried the bags off, so it must be close. Should be fun moving forward. Update time. I don't plan on really attempting to apologize again, more so explain why I acted the way that I did and try to reset their interpretation of me via gift giving, so I don't have to deal with any more nonsense. They aren't the first neighbors to do something similar and then retaliate, hence the reason that I have cameras to begin with. Don't worry, I know what she did was rude as heck. Leaving the gate open honestly really screwed with me because my dog followed me out the second time and could have potentially escaped. I should have closed it, but my mind was elsewhere at the moment. Yeah, I honestly feel bad for being a jerk off from the get-go. In my defense, similar things have happened multiple times with much different results. If I see her again, I'm going to try to explain my train of thought today, but who knows, maybe even offer a free plant cutting to help keep the peace. After talking to my wife and thinking about it, you're right, I wasn't a jerk. I think that last night I felt sympathy in the moment, imagining if I botched a delivery like that and had to recover it. But thinking about it makes me realize that, regardless of her efforts, what she did was unacceptable. Don't worry, we have an extensive camera system. I actually have to shut some down during busy hours because of how many notifications I get. 3 different lots we park in around our house, depending on which ones are full, and I have them all covered. Wanted to update everyone who's interested. It turns out it's the stepdaughter of a neighbor that I talk to regularly who just moved in next door. They came over and apologized for what happened. Yeah, it's a misunderstanding, but they better apologize. She was rude to you, OP, and now at least you can move forward on decent terms, I guess. Cut down the trees. Let me move my bins so you can look at them. Posted by Wild A Guess. Hopefully this is a short tale. So we have new neighbors, and they seem to be awful. They moved in 5 days ago, and for 4 days did nothing but chainsaw down all the trees and bushes on their land. All this greenery is about 40 years old. They also parked all over the place, blocking access for other neighbors. These aren't big houses, but it's a very leafy green place with trees everywhere. We live in a subsidence area, and the trees drink a lot of water, preventing runoff, and they help keep the water table down a bit. I know this because a few years ago, their house developed a large crack due to subsidence, and I spent a lot of time talking to the previous owners about it. Turns out, there are French drains under most of the houses here to manage the water. So, I went and I introduced myself very politely and explained the drainage and subsidence problem and asked them to leave up the trees at the front that divide our houses. Not only do they help with the drainage, but they give a nice privacy barrier. I can't see them and they can't see me. I come home later in the day and they've cut the lot down and there's just bare earth and a huge hole in the greenery. The petty revenge. Yesterday, my wife comes in with a huge smile on her face and she's moved the bins up to where the hole is, but still on our path. They could be looking at trees and bushes, but now they get a glorious view of my recycling, waste, and garden bins from their front door and living room window. For context, this is UK based, not in an HOA or other madness. We live in a conservation area, but our trees don't qualify for preservation orders. Even more pettiness in the comments. To make sure they get a constant waft of fetid breeze is a simple trick, assuming one has wheelie bins here and the prevailing wind is in their direction. Grab yourself a clothes peg, remove the spring, paint the jerk as close to the color of the bin, and slide it under the lid enough to get enough of a gap but still look closed from a distance. That is quality pettiness. Honestly, these neighbors probably won't care if they're that kind of person, but you know what? It feels good to be able to get back at them that way. Funny job, OP and wife. I sued the HOA president for trying to sell my house, but I'm not even in the HOA. Click the video on your screen, you don't want to miss this crazy story, and I'll see you there.